to call this September 26, 2011 regular meeting of the Frankfort Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like for all of us to please stand for the invocation by the Reverend Wayne Sayre, First United Methodist Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Reverend Sayre.
Will you bow with me? Eternal God, we thank you for the blessings of the day, and we're thankful for living in such a great community. We ask for your continued leadership and guidance, and that you would grant wisdom as we face the problems of the day. We are grateful most of all for your love, and it's in your eternal name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Reverend Sayre, thank you very much. I'd like to please to let everybody know we were supposed to have all cell phones turned off as you enter the sanctuary. Okay, then we'd like to have the roll call, please.
Mr. Wilder.
Here.
Mr. Hedden. Here. Mr. Turner.
Here.
Mr. May.
Here.
Mayor Frank.
Yes, so we're all present, counted for. The first item we have is the minutes. We have had an opportunity to review the minutes from the August 8th, 2011 work session, August 15th, 2011 special meeting, August 22nd, 2011 regular meeting, September the 12th, 2011 work session, September 16th, 2011 special meeting, September 19th, 2011 special meeting. Do I have any nominations or recommendations regarding the approval of the minutes? Got a motion by Commissioner Hedden to accept the minutes as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Turner. Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Wilder.
Yes.
Commissioner Hedden.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner May.
Yes.
Mayor Frank.
Yes, so the minutes are approved. Now we have the ceremonial items. So I'll turn this over to our city manager, Mr. Goins.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like Jeff Hackbart, our Public Works Director, please come forward.
Yes, I would like to pay tribute to some of our employees in the Public Works Department. Our transit department has grown probably in the last 4 or 5 years, at least the double its ridership. And as a result, they've done a lot of innovative programs and have been recognized by the other transits in the state. And this year, our transit system received a plaque at the state convention for being the outstanding statewide 5311 public transit system. I don't know if you remember last year, our superintendent Betty Burris received the 2010 Transit Manager of the Year. So it was nice to follow up this year with the outstanding statewide 5311 award. And what the 5311 award is, there's 34 communities in the state that are under 50,000 population, and so we competed with 34 other communities and received the outstanding award out of 34 communities. So
Could we have Mrs. Burris stand or something to make sure that people out in tell me that?
And if I invited her up here to speak, she would take no credit. She would give all the credit to her drivers and also the citizens that use the transit system. It works, they depend on it every day, and you would see how important it is to those citizens every day. So it takes a teamwork approach, and I think, Betty really promotes that in her department, and we really appreciate her service. Okay, second thing, in Public Works, we have, street, garage, sanitation, and a lot of, in transit, and a lot of those departments have a lot of skilled workers. And one time a year, in each department, they go out and they compete with other departments around the state for like skill levels, like driving competitions, equipment operation, and they'll compete with the other cities and towns and show off our skill sets. They learn training in those meetings where safety is concerned, and it's just a good place to exchange ideas and learn what other cities are doing. But as usual, when Frankfort competes, we bring home trophies. We've built trophy cases that are almost having to build new ones because we really have some skilled people that work for the city of Frankfort, and it shows every year. This year, in our sanitation department, Daniel Kirk received first place in the SWANA Bluegrass Regional Rodeo. And what SWANA is, it's a solid waste organization that's statewide. And for the last 2 years, we've had people that, city employees that have won that competition and were asked to go to a regional meet. This year was in Georgia. But Daniel Kirk won the first place in the rear load, or the side loader competition. And what that is they have an obstacle course set up on a big parking lot, and they have tennis balls and cones, and they have to maneuver through the course. They have to go through a safety inspection of the vehicle, and if they don't pass that, they fail. And so it kind of promotes the safety. What do you do as an operator every day? And you have to go through that checklist of things you do every day before you get in that vehicle. And then if you pass that, then you can compete on the course. So I guess it shows me two things. As directors, our people are very well trained, and they take safety number one, and second, the skill set they have is very high as well. Also in that competition, Trey Troxel, he won third place in the rear loader division. And David Sams and Daniel Kirk, because he won, they got to go to Dublin, Georgia and compete in the regional event. And I don't think he got top 3 there, but he represented Frankfort very, very well. We want to tell him congratulations. And finally, in our street department, the APWA Bluegrass Regional Rodeo held this summer. Keith Merriweather and Eddie Wiley competed and won the first place in the snowplow competition. And Daniel Doss won third place in our backhoe competition. And I believe Keith and Eddie will be competing in Owensboro during the state competition in October. So again, it's a lot of safeties involved in these competitions and driving skill. And our employees always do well. It shows we've got good employees. And finally, I'm going to say on a sad note, but I'm really happy for him. He's one of my good friends and been worked with Alan for many years, but he's retiring. Alan Burris, he's our streets department superintendent, and Alan and I have worked for several years. It's usually under snow and ice or flood wall conditions. And I'll tell you what, we're going to really miss Alan in our public works operation. So, yes, you may. So, I would like to invite Alan up here to just say a couple of words and recognize him for his 25 years of service. We're going to miss him, but we're going to see him often. So he's left our department in very good shape, and we're very appreciative of his years of service.
The 2.5 years that I've been mayor, I've seen that smiling face all over town. people always speaking to me out in the community and commending your entire department, but they mention you so many times, Alan. And I know you're loved by employees and city government, and you're loved by our citizens. And so we're so proud that you've been with us in the city. Should wish you well. And anything that you want to be able to do, we just take a vote and maybe I'll let you go.
The main thing, being a superintendent, you're only as good as your employees. And Betty's a prime example.
Yes.
That's what makes you. And having the backing of commissioners, I mean, they know I'm going to take care of the city. This is my city.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Alan.
Good luck with your honey-do list.
Okay, they have another citizen comments.
Mayor, could I just say a few words about,
Yes, Mr. May.
thank you. I had the great distinction of serving with Alan while I was mayor, and one of the things that a lot of folks don't realize, when there's emergency situations or situations that are almost emergencies, but not quite to the point where we do a full-blown thing, the street department is very, very important in being out there before, during, and after storms. And a lot of folks don't realize how dangerous the job is. And the folks in Public Works, through all the agencies in particular, are great. But Alan was always out there with us, with our emergency management folks and police and fire folks and EMS folks, just part of the team on making sure that people could get to and from emergency scenes. That's a little known fact that I think a lot of people don't think about when they think about emergency response. It all has to be coordinated across all agencies, and I always felt comfortable knowing that Alan was out with Darren. When everybody else was asleep, Alan's awake, and all the guys and ladies have to stay awake. And it was comforting knowing that. I know that you will continue to work with your replacement with Keith, and I know he'll do a great job too, but it's a big loss to lose somebody with Alan's experience and dedication. And it's one thing to go out and do the job, but to go out and know that you make a call, they're already, I mean, there's times when I call, they're already out there. You don't have to tell them, they just know. And that's the thing I think that makes a good team, and when everybody works together and runs like that, that just makes me feel blessed to live in a community like this. So thank you for your service. You'll be missed, but hopefully we'll see you out there. It's hard to stay away. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. Good luck.
See you.
Sign it down. Okay, Mr. Goins.
Thank you. Now we have a presentation by Dave Steele from the YMCA, who's the chairman of the Pioneering Healthy Communities Task Force, and this is regarding the 2nd Street Form-Based Code Project.
Thanks, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm here to represent our Pioneering Healthy Communities Task Force, which, just real briefly, for the past 2 years, we've had about 14 members of our community, mostly all in the health-related services, our county health department, Chip Peel from our hospital, Charlie Lewis from our county parks, Paul Alexander, Judy Mattingly, Chip Peel, Rosie McClavick, and Dr. Finn and Dr. Tope up at Kentucky State University. And we've received some excellent training on our task is to try to reduce and reverse childhood obesity in our community by the year 2015. And that's a big task. And we've learned through a lot of our trainings that those happen because of system changes, policy changes, and environmental changes in our community. So our first year we were able to initiate the Take 10 initiative in our kindergarten through fifth grade classrooms, in every single classroom, 185 of them in our county, and supplied materials to each homeroom teacher for increased physical activity in our schools. And we did such a good job with our initial $50,000 of funding that we have reapplied, and we're getting additional funding. And our group continues now into our third year, and we have identified a couple of projects that we want to support this year. And on Saturday, our group donated $2,000 to the Commonwealth Gardens group to continue their fantastic efforts of putting gardens in our schools and neighborhoods. And today we want to recognize the city of Frankfort for its efforts on behalf of the 2nd Street corridor to enhance the walkability of our community, the livability of the community, through the Form-Based Code project, which I'm proud to serve on. But we know that there was expense associated with this project, and we would like to donate $1,000 to the city to help underwrite the Form-Based Code. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm 30 years in the Y. I always ask for money, and I'm giving it away now. So, there you go.
Dave, about 3 years ago, when I was out running for mayor, and how when you're a candidate, you put out certain things you want to be supportive of. And one of the things I said is that I'd like to be able to help Frankfort become the most healthy city in the state of Georgia. And I haven't done much, but y'all doing it, so thank you so much. Okay. Me now? Okay. Okay, the next on and Dave, thank you so much. I appreciate all that you all do, and the effort to reduce, obesity and have a healthy community is so important. So we're grateful for all the citizens who take part in that. The next is citizen comments, and the way we do this is any citizen can address the commission and on any topic, and try to stay within a 5-minute time frame. So do you have a citizen want to address the commission?
I want to.
Okay, please come forth, and when you try to speak into the microphone, please, and then if you will, identify yourself for the record.
My name is Lucy Stevens. Can you hear me? My name is Lucy Stevens, and I live at 200 Thistlewood Avenue off of Louisville Road, which is across from Juniper Hill Golf Course behind Allison's Dry Cleaner and Thistleton Terrace condominiums. Can you hear me?
Not too well.
Not too well.
If you speak a little louder, I appreciate it.
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes, can.
Okay. I've noticed that the board agenda has an old business section on their agenda, and that's what I'm here to address tonight. My set of old business information. And what I want to refer to is a handout that I gave the Board of Commission on March the 28th, 2011. And it was the landlord-tenant rights and responsibilities. It was a cover page and a content page that I had received years ago from the Lexington, that was published by the Bar Association over there. And anyway, the reason I wanted to speak to that tonight is because I was told when I presented it that the city manager, and at this point, Mr. Goins had become the city manager. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, anyway, he had become the city manager already, and he was asked to look into this and to maybe make some progress in this area. So I was here not to know right now this minute, but to refresh everybody's memory that this needs to be addressed, the tenant and landlord situation in Frankfort. And I think changes need to occur and that it needs to be addressed. And so I wanted to remind people that that's still out there. The other thing I have is material. And this is, I just had 3 copies, that's all I could do. So I've got city manager and Commissioner Hedden and you.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll go through, I'm not going to go through every single thing, but this is still old business. I filed a formal complaint on September the 27th a year ago. And I'm filing, what I'm also doing though, is filing a content page for the master copy regarding Thistleton Terrace condominiums that I submitted to the Code Enforcement Board on March the 22nd, 2011. And I've got a content section to show what I submitted there. That's the first page. And then the second handout after that is the September 27th, 2010 formal complaint that I filed. And it'll make more sense when you look at it. So I've resubmitted that. But this is the important thing too, is on October the 25th, 2010, with the direction of Mrs. Hale, Dawn Hale, the chair of the Ethics Committee, she instructed me on how to address my concerns. So I did that on the 25th of October 2010. So I'm refreshing everybody's memory about that. And then this is it. The only other thing. Then I have at the end of the October 25th, 2010 handout, I have the landlord-tenant rights and responsibilities again with the content page. And all this will come together when you look at it. But finally, at the very end, is a city region newspaper article that was published from the Herald Leader on March the 29th, 2010, about enforcement, which is a question with new housing rules in Lexington. And it's about rental property. So I thought, well, that'd be another good guideline on what they're trying to do in Lexington. Of course, all this is dated, I realize that. But this is, as I prefaced the talk, it's about old business. And my business is always, seems like it's the same business over and over, and I don't see the progress. So I thought I'd just refresh everybody's memory that I'm still very concerned about these issues. They are the same issues, and I believe we need to address them. I really do.
Okay.
I think they're very important, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hedden, you, please.
Yes, I believe Commissioner Wilder brought it up, excuse me, in our last meeting to talk about ordinances we would like to see
great.
changed or amended, and I believe, hopefully we'll talk about that in our next work session.
Oh, great, thank you.
When we have a little bit more time.
That's in the next work session? What's the date of that?
So, the 10th. And hopefully everyone, department heads as well as us as commissioners will come together and talk about ordinances we'd like to see possibly changed or revised or even added.
Wonderful. And what day is that discussion?
It'll be on a Monday.
And you said it'll be the next meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I will call down and find out the exact date of that.
It's October 10th at 5:00 p.m. here at City Hall.
October 10th, 5 p.m. Thanks, that's great news. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, now, do we have another citizen coming? Okay, come forth and please start speaking to the microphone and identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. My name is John Snyder. I live at 515 Logan Street. The reason I've come before you today is to express concern regarding the proposal that's being floated for the plan to change waste collection pickup. I would say ordinance, but I don't really see where any ordinance has been proffered on that subject yet. I guess this would deal with item 4.3, the second reading of the budget amendment that will expend, I believe it's $215,000 to put a first payment down on the new rolling carts and a $15,000 appropriation to put forth a survey. I've provided the mayor and the members of the commission with a list of 12 questions. I could probably go on and come up with a lot more questions. that I would really like to see some answers to. I summarized my comments by saying the list could go on for several more pages. Let me sum up my feelings in this matter. It seems to me this scheme has many unanswered questions surrounding it. I do want it to be known that I'm not necessarily against the automation of waste pickup. It may be a very valid idea. I simply feel the questions need to be addressed in a thoughtful, measured way that does not involve million-dollar payments without an enabling ordinance in place. If this plan would be proposed for 1 year so that the enabling ordinance could be studied, drafted, and adopted, what would be the harm? I feel that members of the City Commission may not realize the great majority of city residents are just now understanding what is about to happen, and I do not think that a majority of city residents are necessarily in agreement on how to proceed. That being said, I thank you for your time and attention to this matter. I thank you for your service to our community.
Well, thank you, Mr. Senator. Commissioner Wilder.
I've only had, I just got this in my
Right,
box
I
today.
just gave it to y'all right before the meeting. I understand that. I'm not expecting any
But
answers necessarily.
I have had a chance to at least skim it real quick, and I think there are some very thoughtful questions here, and I appreciate your engagement in this process.
Appreciate it.
And I would also, after I've had a chance to review all this, I'd also be very happy to have a longer conversation with you.
Absolutely.
on or
I've
offline.
supplied my contact information. I'd feel forward to any of you that want to speak with me at a later date. I'd be happy to engage y'all in any kind of conversations about it.
I appreciate that, and I look forward to it. I expect us to have this conversation.
Sure. Just
if I
two
could-
doors down, so you know.
Sure, yeah, we're neighbors. Although, if I could make a kind of general response to a couple of the concerns, because you voiced some concerns that we have been hearing lately, particularly in regards to unanswered questions or to elements of this that haven't been discussed. We've been discussing this for almost a year now. If you take into account the campaign season, because this is a frequent topic during the campaign as well, and we've been making, I think, a very sincere and strong effort to make our discussions available to the public. We've been recording them and posting them online in full. And a lot of these unanswered questions actually have been discussed and even answered. They just haven't necessarily been reported in the press. But and we can't take responsibility for that. But I think you're right. I think it is our responsibility to, in the absence of coverage of a lot of this, I think it is our responsibility to try and get a lot of this information out to the public.
Right.
There's
in light of that, the only response I would have to that is, you brought up the fact that you all ran on this kind of platform. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't get the impression looking at that race that this was the real hot button issue. The $60 garbage fee was the issue, but I think all the talk about pay as you throw and all that stuff, I don't necessarily think that was, I don't think the new members of the commission were swept in
solely on that. I would agree. There were a number of factors.
And I think the other thing, and I do appreciate the fact that you have had public forums, but there are a lot of folks out there that have a lot of stuff going on, and unless they're particularly interested in this issue, they may not attend a public forum on it. When it's going to hit their radar screen is when it hit my radar screen. You all the first reading of an ordinance to spend $215,000. So that's I'm talking to a lot of people, and right now people just don't know. And if we can, get some answers to these questions, one of the big things, and I'm just going to bring up one of the questions. I don't want to take up too much of your time. One of the questions I talk about is the disparate pricing between the 95-gallon bin and the 65-gallon bin. Why does it jump from $4 to $12? And what I'm concerned about more than anything else is that waste production is often a size of house. It's also often a product of household size. And if you're charging, that much more for the 95-gallon bin, is this not just a tax on large families? And oftentimes large families are the ones that can least afford to spend an extra $8 a month. If we could go back to something more broad-based, I don't know if that's possible or not. There are budget implications in all this that you guys are going through, et cetera, et cetera. But, I just don't think there's the need there to rush into this and get this done by the first of the year. I think there needs to be some kind of ordinance out there that lets people understand what kind of system they're going to be under before we spend all this money. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
If I could make just one more comment. The information that's scheduled to be sent out this month in terms of the survey is also going to include a frequently asked questions list that hopefully should address at least some of your concerns and share at least some of that information.
I don't think you should call it a survey, because people won't respond to a survey. Yeah, I would call it an order form, because that's what it is. Okay?
Thank you very much. Okay, next we're down to any other citizen comment. All right, we're down to ordinances. Mr. Moore.
Number 4.1, title, an ordinance fixing the rate of taxation for the year of 2011 on all tangible property subject to tax, trust, and insurance companies, public service companies, and levying said tax for all city purposes. Summary. That the 2011 City of Frankfort ad valorem tax rate is 21 3/10 cents on each $100 valuation of all real and personal property, 21 3/10 cents on each $100 valuation on public utilities and public service companies taxable on a franchise basis, 15 and no 10 cents on each $100 valuation on taxable capital of insurance companies.
Okay, do I have a motion regarding ordinance 4.1? Commissioner May, a motion for approval. Is that second?
Second.
Commissioner Hedden, any comments? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
I respect all my colleagues' feelings on this, but as mentioned in my budget discussions, I'm still not quite ready to vote for a property tax increase. No.
Commissioner Hedden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so ordinance 4.1 is approved. Mr. Moore?
Second reading, ordinance 4.2, an ordinance fixing the rate of taxation for the year 2012 on all motor vehicles and levying said tax for all city purposes. Summary, this ordinance fixes the rate of taxation for the year 2012 at the sum of 22 7/10 cents on each $100 valuation on all motor vehicles subject to taxation in the city.
Okay, do I have a recommendation by Commissioner regarding ordinance 4.2?
Move for approval, Mayor.
Commissioner Turner moves for approval. The second, Commissioner May. Any comments, discussions? All right, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hedden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so ordinance 4.2 is approved.
Ordinance 4.3, second reading, an ordinance amending ordinance number 12, 2011 series appropriating the revenue to be received by the City of Frankfort for the fiscal year 2011-12. Summary, this ordinance amends the City of Frankfort budget for fiscal year 2011-2012 to include the lease purchase of garbage recycled rollout containers and to cover the survey/mailing cost.
Do I have a motion regarding 4.3?
Motion for approval.
I got a motion from Commissioner Wilder for approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Turner is second. Any discussion? I would like to make a few statements regarding this. And I will not be supporting this particular ordinance. And then last week or so ago, I did not support the ordinance for the increase in the employees' salary from 1% to 2%. Now, all I want to do, and I hope this is the only time I do it, is express some of my concerns to the general public, because as I go about the community, I do hear many questions regarding some of the things that the commission is doing now, and I feel that all the things we're doing, just everyone is promoting anything, they're doing it in good faith. But my concern is, basically two, but one concern is that we, as a commission, in my opinion, have moved away from the agreement that we made back last January, February, when we had that little session, meeting, to prioritize the things that we were going to do as a commission this year, or these 2 years. And we said at that time that we were going to pass and support a structurally balanced budget. As I understand a structurally balanced budget is that we anticipate the revenue that will be coming in and not expend any more than what is anticipated. Now, last January, this commission inherited a well-run city, not just because of the previous commission, but other commissions over in the past. But fiscally, we're really doing well. And we'd had 2 years in a row of a balanced budget. Now, the budget that we inherited for 2010 and 11 was $30 million. All right, now we actually spent, I checked this out, and Mr. Dawson, if I speak wrong, you please let me know. We budgeted this last year $30 million, and we spent $29.9 million. Now, the budget that we passed in June for the present fiscal year was at $31 million, and that included, the wages and benefits, no equipment, because for the last 2 years, I believe it's the last 2 years, we haven't purchased any equipment. I believe that's correct. And we also, as we passed the budget, we said that we wanted to review the revenue flow for the next few months, and so that hopefully that, we'd have a 1% raise for employees in January. And I fully supported that. But after we passed the budget, and here's what, began to trouble me. Immediately, we said we're not going to collect the garbage fee from last January to the end of this past June, which was hopefully going to bring in $300,000. So, as a commission, I didn't support it, but as a commission, we said we're going to do away with that and not collect that. Then, shortly after we passed the budget, the recommendation was made to put in a 2% salary increase into the budget. At that time, I asked or suggested that we should wait till the latter part of the year to really see how the revenue is coming in. Because anyone that reads the newspaper or listens to television and listened to discussions yesterday know that the economy is not doing well at all, and not even just in our nation, but in worldwide. And then, so that 2% COLA next year was going to be $200,000 this year. But when you start talking about the budget next year, and I mentioned this before, when I've gone to some meetings with mayors, the concern from the mayors that I hear are that, well, this is a tight budget year, but next year is really going to be a tight one. And so I'm not against employees getting raises, it's per se, but I'm just talking about what I consider to be real issues in trying to manage our funds. So by putting that 2% COLA in next year, it's going to equate to $400,000. Now, then the garbage can that Mr. Snyder mentioned here a while ago, will cost $200,000 for 5 years. So, in thinking about next year's budget now, there's $0.4 million for the COLA, $200,000 for the garbage can, and then employees' pensions and health care always have to be factored in. So they're roughly $3 million each. So with the budget that we passed in June, 31 million, then you add this 4 million, this 400,000, 200,000, 300,000, 300,000, that comes out for next, we start the budget next year for 32.2 million. Now, the revenue that we took in this past year was $30,700,000, 30.7. So my concern is that we're going to start off next budget year $1.5 million short. And that's not including, of this number that I just gave you, that $300,000 that we waived for the garbage fee from this past January to this June. Once again, like we don't know about the economy. Now then, we've had discussions here recently regarding the roof of this building. And the cost for that, I've heard $150,000 to $160,000 if we did not have a green roof. And then so as I understand, there's still some ongoing discussion maybe for doing some other structural repairs, make it green, which I would not support that. And when another thing, when in the discussion about the rollout cans, we've said, now correct me if I'm wrong, that since we know there's around 10,600 households, and so we are guessing, we really just guessing at this point, how many households are going to be using the smaller, the medium, or the large rollout. Now, I understand that you sort of, right now, and I may be wrong, but just my understanding, is you're figuring that 25% of the people will use the smaller, so those households will not be charged any money at all. I think that's right. And I'm sure I'll get a response here, you don't correct me if I am wrong. And then, but you figure that maybe 50% of the people would have the medium, and that's at $4. And so that would, and then the larger one may be 25%. Now, in my calculations here, 25% of this 10,600 households is 2,600 households. And if they take the larger one, that's 12. That's going to be saying around $12 a month. It's going to be $12 times 12 months, and they'd be paying $144 a year, and that would equal bring in $374,400. Now, remember the smaller fees not paying any. All right, and then the larger 50%, which is still just an estimate, we don't know. They say they're going to charge $4. $4 times 12 is $48 a year. Times 48 times 53, 100, it comes out to, in my figures, $254,400. Now you tally those two up, and we have $628,808. Now, the clamor that had been in the past over the $5 garbage fee or tax, or whatever a person wants to call it, was supposed to bring in around $600,000, and it's been bringing in around $550, or I believe, or something like that. And so the $5 was bringing in $550. This new thing is going to bring in $628. So 78,000. I beg your pardon. Yeah, it's about $78,000 different. So that, over a large scale, it's pretty much a wash when in essence, the cost for picking up all the garbage is $1.6 million. And that is, I was thinking at the beginning when I first heard back 2 or 3 years ago, or a year and a half, 2 years ago, was that the pay as you throw would pay for all the garbage pickup, cost of garbage pickups, but it's not doing that. Now, just one last thing, and I'll stop here, but if I can find my little chart here. Mr. Snyder, I didn't know Mr. Snyder was going to be here. I didn't know anything about what his questions were, but he touched on something that I was going to suggest, which I have suggested. I think that maybe we're going a little bit too fast. That's my personal opinion, and that since we didn't know we cannot project how the economy is going to go, and our commission serves for 2 years. That when he said, wait a year, that has sort of been run through my mind, and I've picked that up a lot of times from some people out in the community, but it's not like it's going to happen, I know that, but that's nevertheless, I was wanting to touch on that because I was had some of the same thoughts that Mr. Snyder did. But I just want to read just a few figures, then I'll stop. And this is a chart, a table that just recently came out by the Bluegrass Area Development District. It says the solid waste charges and services for Bluegrass area cities, and these are for services that are provided directly by the cities. Now, I'm not going to mention all of them, but the Bluegrass area is considered to be 17 county area. All right, so right now, or well, not right now, before we took away the $5, we were charging $5 a month. All right, so Carlisle charges $11.50. It says Frankfort $5, Georgetown $15, Irving $15, Paris $12.50, Versailles $12, Wilmore $15, Winchester $21.73, Berea $8.35, Cynthiana $12, Danville $10.21, Harrodsburg $12.49 to $17.95, Lancaster $9.40. And then it has a chart that about some of the cities where the solid waste is provided directly by a franchise contractor. And by the franchise contractor, there's a few of them, about 5 here we mentioned. Lawrenceburg, they pay $32 every 2 months. Midway pays $11.90. Nicholasville, $9.32 to $11.15. Richmond, $7.60. And Stanford, $9.85. As I look at what we're doing, I know it's done in trying to make things better for the city and all. I just cannot support these things, and I just want to say it, and I'm not going to do it when any future votes come up. I'll just go ahead and vote them away. But I really didn't want the general public that watches this to understand why I'm doing that, because I'm going to be voting in the minority, and but it's not with anger or anything or malice. It's just the way I feel, and I just am concerned that we may wind up next year or two not as well off as we are. I hope we are, but that's my concern. Now I'm ready to call a roll for this vote.
I'm not.
Oh yes.
I've got a few responses to make, and I'm glad you brought up the COLA because the commission was never given an opportunity to respond to your comments on the COLA that were published in the paper last week, the cost of living adjustment that we gave employees to keep up with inflation. First of all, the impact of our recent decision to increase the cost of living adjustment from 1% to 2% will not be, as the mayor claims and has been reported, $200,000 this year and $400,000 next year. It'll be $100,000 this year and $200,000 this year. The mayor's factoring in expenses that were already budgeted for and that the mayor himself approved in the previous budget. And in terms of the COLA, because a lot of what we're hearing now is a lot of the same claims and rhetoric that we've been hearing for the past couple of years. When the previous commission cut our employees' longevity pay by 2% last term, our employees were also told at that time that we couldn't even afford a cost of living adjustment to keep up with inflation. And our employees and the public were led to believe that we just didn't have the money. And we all heard the same thing then that we're hearing today, which is that it would be dangerous and irresponsible of us to deplete our reserves, which sounds very sober and responsible and grown up, but which is also proven to be a completely false premise. We ended up bringing in an extra $1.3 million surplus that year while telling people we didn't have any funds to spare. And during the fiscal year that just ended this summer, we again heard the same inaccurate claims from many of the same people. We again heard that it would be dangerous and irresponsible of us to deplete our reserves, even though our next audit, which we'll probably approve early next year, is anticipated to reveal yet another $1 million in excess profits. So here we are, and I can hardly believe that we're hearing the same people making the same claims and using the same rhetoric. These claims were proven false the first time around. They were proven false the second time around. And I don't understand how anybody could believe that these claims are all of a sudden true now, despite the fact that they've never been true before. So this idea that we've been endangering the reserve and we've been depleting our reserves, I would argue has been inaccurate, consistently inaccurate. And the first time, I guess you could, I could cut people slack for simply making a mistake and for not entirely understanding what they were talking about. But when the same claim keeps getting proven false and it keeps getting repeated over and over and over again, then I have to question whether or not folks are being entirely honest. In regards to this health care increases that the mayor cites, as has been reported in the paper, we made a number of changes to our health care system. And both the commission and city staff anticipate those changes to result in significant savings as opposed to increases. Despite the mayor's claims, there is no further discussion of a green roof, specifically because the structural repairs wouldn't be cost effective. I don't even know where that's even all the stuff that isn't related to the garbage fee. I guess I'd remind everyone that the first garbage fee was passed after just 2 or 3 months of public discussion, and the proponents of that fee, including the mayor, did not at all feel that that particular decision was too rushed. And yet here we are discussing a different garbage fee for about a year now, and folks are concerned that we're rushing things too much. Now granted, the previous fee was actually discussed for more than 2 or 3 months because most of the details of that fee were worked out in private behind closed doors before that fee was ever brought to the public. When it was brought to the public, the details, the size, and the parameters were set by the city manager in consultation with individual city commissioners and the mayor before it was ever brought public. And he had even already collected a consensus behind the scenes. But that, so really I'd say there were probably 3 or 4 months of discussion instead of 2 or 3 months of discussion. But either way, frankly, I think it's pure hypocrisy to claim that 2 or 3 months is plenty of time to discuss a garbage fee, but 1 year is not nearly enough time to discuss a garbage fee. I agree that a lot of the information and discussion we've had hasn't been sufficiently shared with the public. I think that we've done our best to share it, and anybody who visits www.frankfort.ky.gov can listen to full audio recordings and view, in many cases, full video recordings of our meetings. We've done everything we can to bring this conversation to the public. We've had a series of public forums where we solicited input from the community, and the results of those forums suggest that most people would prefer a system that rewards recycling and less waste. And I'll point out again that the proposal that's on the table right now would reduce people's current monthly garbage bills, would reduce, by our anticipation, 3 out of 4 people's monthly bills right now. So lots of folks are concerned this will cost them more money. But frankly, $0 a month is less than $5 a month, and $4 a month is less than $5 a month, no matter how you slice it. And anybody who anybody can get their volume of garbage down to the 35 or 65 gallon cans if they're simply recycling and not doing things like putting yard waste into garbage cans. And for what it's worth, and I think a lot of folks don't realize this, but when you put your yard waste into garbage cans and trash bags, then not only is that an absolute waste of tax dollars because we have to pay to dump it at the landfill as opposed to picking it up and composting it, but it also puts an unnecessary burden on the landfill. If folks want to choose to do that, that's their prerogative, but I don't believe the rest of us should have to pay for that decision. As the mayor points out, the anticipated revenue from the proposed garbage fee would be roughly equal to the revenue brought in by the previous garbage fee. That was the result of countless hours of public discussion to get to that number. We always said that we wanted this to be revenue neutral. Initially, we discussed that in the context of raising the fee and lowering taxes accordingly. But over time, we realized it would actually be more cost-effective and more equitable to, rather than raising the fee and lowering taxes, to simply adjust the current fee structure to remain revenue neutral. When we had this series of public forums on the garbage fee, we solicited a lot of input from folks, and folks expressed a lot of concerns. And I think we've discussed all of those concerns and really done our best to work those concerns into this proposal, so that we're not charging significantly more than we were before. We're still picking up yard waste for free and bulky items for free. We'll continue to pick up recycling for free. But a few people have suggested that we shouldn't. And also, I guess I should mention that over the course of the past few months, we've also discussed how best to move forward with this and the proper order to do things in. And we agreed, gosh, it was probably a couple of months ago, maybe even 3 months ago, that that it would make the most sense to figure out. Okay, let me work backwards. The only substantive detail that hasn't been worked out yet is the exact size of the cans. We're suggesting 35, 65, and 95 gallon cans, subject to a margin of error of 1 or 2 or even 3 gallons. Meaning some can't, depending on the company we go with, the breakdown might be 34 gallon, 65 gallon, and 96 gallon. There's just no way to tell. But the catch is that we can't. We've been criticized for appropriating these funds without working out that detail. But the truth matters, we can't work out the detail until we appropriate the funds. We can't know exactly what size the cans are going to be until we know which manufacturer proves to be the most cost-effective during the bid process. We can't put this out to bid until we know how many of each size can we want. We can't know how many of each size can we want until we do the public survey and find out what size can everybody wants. So as we discussed months ago, the 2 big steps that need to be taken are appropriating the funds and refining the language of an ordinance to reflect a lot of the concerns that were expressed in the forums, including things like illegal dumping and yard waste and hazardous materials, etc. And we agreed months ago that this would be the logical approach to take. That also wasn't reported, but nobody expressed any concerns about rushing things at the time. Again, I can't think of any other issue that this commission has discussed at this length and with this amount of breadth and depth as this one. I can't think of any other issue that's taken us a year to move on. Granted, I've only been here for a few years, but usually 2 or 3 months is considered a long time. And the funny thing is that a lot of the folks who are expressing concerns that we're moving too quickly now had been expressing concerns for the past few months that all we ever talk about is garbage collection. When are we going to stop talking about garbage collection and actually do something or don't do something? So it's hard not to dismiss that concern as a little disingenuous and political. Especially since a lot of it's coming from folks who think that 2 or 3 months was plenty of time to pass the previous garbage fee, which also was done without, or which not also, which instead was done without any public input and without any significant public discussion, and which was done in the face of a lot of public opposition. I mean, I realize, I guess I'll just make one more point here. We really have done our best to solicit community input on this. We held community forums, not just here. We took them out to the community and held them in on the west side, we held them on the east side, we held them downtown. We solicited input, we tallied the input, and we discussed this during the campaign, and I guess that was also an opportunity for folks to vote on this as well. And everything we've collected, again, says that most folks would like to see a system that rewards people for recycling more and wasting less. And I realize that there are some folks out there who feel that their voices should be given more weight than everybody else's. And that's kind of always the case. And I acknowledge that there's nothing we can do that'll make everybody happy at this point. At this point, we could do away with the garbage fee entirely, and that would upset most of the folks who responded in the public forums that they would like to see us move in this direction. So it's there's an extent to which we're politically, doomed if we do, doomed if we don't. But all we can do is solicit public input, take that input into account, discuss everything in public, take ample time, and do what we feel is best for the city. And I really think we've done our best to do that. But having said that, if listening to all the misinformation that's being put out there in terms of how we're managing the budget, I mean, we've essentially been accused of making expenditures of about $600,000 in my estimation that are completely fictional. I'm not saying we haven't made them yet, but we did not draw down the reserve by any stretch of the imagination to not collect the garbage bill last term, or during the second half of the previous fiscal year. Because, like I said, our next audit is going to reveal another $1 million in surplus growth. It's not going to reveal a $300,000 reduction. It's going to reveal another $1 million in surplus growth. And again, this false claim that our recent decision to adjust the cost of living, to increase the cost of living adjustment from 1% to 2%, there's this fictional $100,000 this year and $200,000 next year that was brought into the mix. That was unfortunately reported by the State Journal. I mean, if I were to believe, the mayor would have some pretty good points if they were true. And that's all I got to say about that.
Okay, I'll respond to that in a minute. I got two other people who want to comment. Commissioner Turner, and then Commissioner May, then Commissioner Hedden, and then I will come back to it. All right? Commissioner Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to start off and pick up and touch on some things that Commissioner Wilder talked about. I, like the rest of the community, read in the newspaper over the last week that this commission has rushed this plan through, and I'd like to take issue with that. We began this discussion back in January in reevaluating the way we handled our solid waste collection. And, throughout the campaign, the biggest issue that I heard about and was asked about was the trash fee. I mean, if you go back and you listen to the debates, the questions on that, and the public outrage about that. And I think that more than just charging a fee for service, I think people were upset in the way that it was handled. They felt like that was rushed through, which is why I'm taking issue with this, because when we came in office in January, we made it a point to say that we wanted this to be one of the most open public discussions that the city has ever seen. And in beginning that process, like Commissioner Wilder stated, we decided to hold public forums to ask the people of this city, where should we go? Give your commissioner some direction on where to go on this issue. And we took this debate out of City Hall, as he said, and took it out to the four corners of the city. And we got, I thought was a good response from people who showed up and debated the issues and had the facts and discussed it intelligently and respectfully. As Commissioner Wilder pointed out, the majority of those votes that were cast at those forums were to move with a pay-as-you-throw system. After that point, we began the discussion in our city commission meetings, which were all public, and we pushed to also post video on the city website. And I would venture to say that at the very least one meeting per month was devoted to this topic. I can still remember going to and speaking to the Rotary Club a few months ago and them asking me, what is the thing you've learned most about? And I said, trash, because that's all we've talked about is trash. And it's a pertinent issue here in this community. I mean, granted, we have talked about other issues, but trash certainly has taken up the most time. And moving forward, this city and the staff and the commissioners have contacted other communities to see what they've done. I know I personally contacted Quincy, Illinois. I know that staff has had in-depth conversations with Gainesville, Florida. We've researched this to see what works in other communities, what doesn't work, what's the best fit for Frankfort. That's how we came from a tag-a-bag to a trash can size. Because we found that, number one, that one of our big issues was employment with regards to on the trucks. And that with the uniformed cans, we would be able to automate that, cutting our long-term employment costs per truck. Just another example of the long-term cost savings that this plan has. In moving forward, we expanded our glass recycling to make more items recyclable in this community. So that less waste would go into what you would consider your 35, 65, or 95-gallon container, and you would be charged for less waste in the long term. I also want to note that in July, I believe it was in June, we canceled sending out the garbage collection fee. One of the reasons why we did that, and one of the reasons I voted not to send that bill out, was because we were in the midst of this discussion, trying to figure out where we're going with this program. And I didn't feel it was right to send a bill out to the people while we were discussing it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that fee is due to go back out in January. And people are asking, what's the rush? Do we want to send the fee out again, or do we want to see a conclusion to what we've been working on the last year? And I think that the will of the people and the will of this commission is to see its priorities through. Trust me, no other issue have I heard more about than garbage. And I think the people expect action. They expect a conclusion to it, and I think that's certainly what we're working towards. I appreciate any thoughts or conversations people would like to have with me. My telephone number's on the website. You can also access me through email, mturner@frankfort.ky.gov. And I will be happy to vote yes for this ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner May.
Mayor, I had just a quick question for staff. That's something if we did get the answer to this, I apologize for not remembering it. And then also, then I'll have a couple of comments. But one question is the proposed fee income. Does that count is that the total we're talking about? And you mentioned, Mayor, based on the 25% of the folks might pick a small container and 50% in the middle and then 25% on the other. Does that include the cost of the containers, the approximately $215,000 projected cost for the containers? Do we know that answer? Yeah, I apologize if it's been in something that I've seen. I just don't remember. It's not jumping out at me. I usually remember like money things pretty well. I don't know who would be the person to ask that to, but. Or any, Commissioner, they know, that's one.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
The projected fee income that the mayor's talking about, the difference between the $5 a month that we're getting roughly $600,000, I'm just rounding down, $600,000, and then the new fee with the 25, the small container, the middle-sized container, and the large container. Does that total for those options include the cost for the containers?
No, the $600,000 figure is revenue only. That's,
But my question is, the current system
No.
was going to be roughly 600,000. The new system would be,
The way with figures that I was using, that's what you're talking about. The $5 fee would, if everybody paid, would be 600,000.
That's right.
We're only breaking, but actually only bringing in around 550.
Okay.
All right, and then the 25%, I was saying that was going to use the larger container, would bring in 374,400. Then the medium-sized container would bring in 254,400, which would bring a total of $628,800. So that's not counting the $200,000
that's fine.
for the containers.
That was my question, because
Yeah,
that was the one thing
that's
I had not, I just, when you raised those, I hadn't thought about that before when you compared the income. So that would mean, I guess my question is, would we, and this, whoever wants to answer it, is if under the new system, the projected income would not include the cost of the container, so that if the cost of the containers, I don't know what the total cost we're projecting, what, 215, something?
It does not.
Then that would actually be bringing in less.
Does not include the $200,000 for the rolled out containers.
So was my question, so we'd be bringing in less money? I'm not trying,
I think I can answer
I'm just
the
making
question.
sure, because I keep thinking in my head, I said, right, or is it not right? Or and it doesn't matter, I just want to know.
I think I understand what you're
Hadn't thought
asking,
about
and I think I can address it. In terms of the anticipated revenue for both the current fee and the proposed new fee, that's a wash. They're both anticipated to bring in around $600,000.
Okay.
So there's not a difference there. There is an anticipated increase in expenditures for 5 years of roughly $200,000 a year. There's also an anticipated, and this is just based on the thousands of other communities that have already done this, there's also an anticipated 15% reduction in operational expenses
Okay.
over the course of the next few years that's anticipated to roughly balance out with the, as in this anticipated to be a wash and even break us into the black over time on that as well. Does that?
I just didn't, I had not, that was one fact I hadn't really thought about until the mayor was talking about the cost comparisons, or the revenue comparisons, and I just thought I wanted to ask that just for a point of clarification. But then I just wanted to say, I think for me, at this point, I'm not really ready to support this proposal. I would really prefer that we see the efforts through when we hire the sustainability coordinator, then have that individual just do everything they can to try to encourage people about recycling. It's always been one of those things, when we started the recycling program in 92 or 93, I had the privilege to getting to vote on that. And we've seen the percentage of recycling, our participant go up and go down, it just kind of fluctuates. And we did have a full-time, or no, not a full-time, but a part-time person in Public Works a few years ago that focused on recycling efforts and went to the schools and went to the civic clubs. And we did see an increase. I don't remember off the top of my head what the numbers were, if they're even available still. But there was a little bit of an increase through that education. And I'm hoping that through the sustainability coordinator position being brought online between city, county, and plant board, folks, that will see an increase in recycling. But I would just say at this point, I think just it's better to hold where we are, see what kind of increase we can get on recycling through our efforts through a sustainability coordinator, and address it later. And I certainly respect everybody's position on this, and have no, either way, bad feelings towards any member of the commission or staff or anybody in the public that's expressed it one way, because it's one of those programs that, in the end, it may be the greatest thing we've ever done, and it may not be that great, or it could be, I don't think it'll be terrible, but it may not be as easy for some to transition. I've had some elderly residents call and be concerned about the size of the containers being difficult to move, and I've talked amongst you all about that. One thing, when the cans or the containers don't have any trash in them, but when they put garbage in, it could be difficult for some. I know my mother wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think she would, but again, those are just some concerns, and have great respect for everyone for their positions on this.
What do you think? Commissioner Hedden.
Thank you. In 1989, I was 10 years old, and I had the pleasure of being taught by Mr. Lovell at Hearn Elementary. And with him, he taught us about the environment and about how it's our job to help take care of our environment that we live in. 20 years later, of which the city has implemented a recycling program, but it's also about the longevity of our town. It's about the longevity of our citizens, our workforce, and our health. In 20 years, I've seen limited change regarding our environment within our city. And what a better place to start than to start with a healthy habit of recycling and providing a container for every household to be able to have the opportunity to roll out their recycling versus having to carry a heavy red bin that's awkward. Sure, the rollout bin may be awkward too, but it's on wheels. It seems a little bit easier to do than a big red box. So think about that as well. That's it.
Okay, just a couple little follow-up, then I'll probably get a follow-up, then we'll go on and take a vote. The real issue, I guess the biggest issue with me is that how the revenue that we want to have next year to work with the budget. Now, Commissioner Wilder said I misspoke or whatever. Now, I want to ask Mr. Dawson, now, correct me if I'm wrong, or you want to come up, you can, or sit there, whatever. All right, the budget that we passed in June was $31 million roughly. Okay. The revenue that we spent this past year was $29.9 million. That's right. Okay. Now, with the COLA, the 2% COLA, the garbage, the rolled out cans, the increase in pensions, and the increase in health care to begin next year's budget, are we in fact $1.5 million in the hole?
We're gonna have to budget another $1 million to cover it.
Pardon me?
Cost. We got another $1 million worth of cost to cover. So we had a budget of $31 million this year. We'll have a budget of 32 next year, starting out.
Okay. And basically, I'm closer, I'm right? I mean, I'm not off.
That's right.
In your best judgment?
Yes, that's about right, yes.
Okay. And that's what concerns me. That is my concern. All right, now, just another couple of things. We haven't discussed, I don't think, how you want to build it, I don't think. And now, you mentioned the meetings that we had. I attended every one of them. And at one time, in one of our commission meetings, I think I quoted the number of people who attended. And though it was a great effort to go out into the community, but actually when you start looking at the number of people who participated, and compared to the 10,600 households, it wasn't really a great number, so I don't know that we can really say with confidence that we know what the people want. I don't know what the people want, and I don't think anyone else does. I mean, carte blank. My people, the people that I talk with, for the most part, I don't hear much support for doing a lot of the changing. Now, this idea about doing things behind closed doors. Commissioner, you and I'll never agree to that. And, so that's it. I've stated my views, and so if you want to call roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
No.
Mayor Graham.
No, so ordinance 4.3 is passed. Now we're down to, Rob, we'll continue on.
Thank you. And this is ordinance 4.4, and this is a first reading. Title, an ordinance amending Frankfort Code of Ordinances, Chapter 32, Section 32.03, meetings. Summary, this ordinance provides that as of November 1, 2011, the Board of Commissioners will meet in work session on the second Monday of each month at 5 p.m., a work session on the third Monday of each month at 12:30 p.m., and meet in a voting meeting on the fourth Monday of each month at 5 p.m.
All right, do I have a recommendation? Oh, that's first reading. Let me ask a question on this thing for clarification. On the third Monday at 12:30, is that one that's going to be for sure a meeting, or is that the one we just sort of holding?
That's the optional.
Optional.
The optional.
Okay, that's what I want. That's what I understood it was going to be, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, we got the first reading. All right, now we're down to orders, and there being none. Move on to resolutions, and Mr. Gorge.
Thank you. Resolution 6.1 is a resolution of the City of Frankfort authorizing certification of a cultural district for at least 10 years to be named Frankfort Cultural Arts District, and authorizing the mayor to sign all documents pertaining to the certification. This is, the purpose of this is request to name this the Cultural Arts District and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents, and assigning the Downtown Frankfort Incorporated to be the lead agency. And Ms. Everman and Ms. Skinner were just here, and they had to leave because of time restraints.
Okay, do I have a recommendation for approval? Commissioner May, do we have a second? Commissioner Turner, and any questions? All right, call roll.
Commissioner Wilder,
Oh, I guess I'd just like to make one comment real quick. I think it's really great, Mayor, that when you asked for a motion and a second, that there were 4 hands up over here. I think that demonstrates the level of support for this and what a good thing this is for the community. Yes, I vote yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Mayor Graham.
Yes, so resolution 6.1 is approved.
Item 6.2, a resolution of the City of Frankfort to partner with Franklin County Fiscal Court for the Stormwater Utility Program. This would be implementation plan phase 1. This is a feasibility study to evaluate the feasibility of establishing a stormwater utility. The financial impact would be to hire a consultant not to exceed $50,000.
Okay, do I have a recommendation for approval?
So moved.
Commissioner Wilder, second by Commissioner Hadden. Any discussion? Call roll.
Oh, if I could make one
yes,
more
sure.
comment. I'll just note that this has we'll need the feasibility study to see how this plays out. But this has the potential to save local taxpayers tens of millions of dollars over a year, and in terms of stormwater funding, by essentially requiring the state and otherwise tax-exempt entities to shoulder their fair share of those costs.
Okay. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Mayor Graham.
Yes, so resolution 6.2 is adopted. Now we're down to the consent calendar. Mr. Goins.
Yes, item 7.1, to authorize award of engineering services agreement with DLZ Kentucky Incorporated, to authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to the project. This is for design services associated with structural inspections of the 2 oldest oxidation ditches located on the wastewater treatment plant. This is not to exceed a cap of $20,000. Item 7.2, to authorize award of professional services agreement to Otis Engineering LLC for the title, reports, negotiations, and closings for easement acquisition for the Two Creeks Pump Station project. In order to do this project, we need permanent easements, construction easement, or an acquisition easement. Otis has performed easement acquisition services for us in the past. Their fee will be a lump sum of $600 to $750 per property with a cap of $15,000. Item 7.3, to authorize award of Amendment 1 for construction administration and construction observation for the Juniper Hills Rehab Project. The Amendment 1 is to be billed hourly and at an amount not to exceed $50,000. This amendment would raise the total contract to $121,181. Item 7.4, to authorize award of an engineering services agreement to Camp Dresser and McKee Incorporated for the evaluation and preliminary engineering associated with the Crestwood I&I reduction project. The initial contract will be billed hourly at a rate not to exceed $99,483. Additional funds will be necessary upon completion of engineering for bidding, construction, administration, construction, observation, and other services as may be required. Item 7.5, to authorize award of an engineering contract to Benning R. Maffitt Engineering and Land Surveying for the design of a low-pressure sewer system along Glens Creek Road. This contract is not to exceed $14,000. Item 7.6, to authorize a sewer extension contract with Kentucky Finance Cabinet for a sewer extension at the Boone National Guard. Item 7.7, to authorize payment to Mission Communications LLC for the annual telemetering fee for designated pump stations. Item 7.8, to authorize the mayor to sign a contractor agreement between Febco Incorporated and the city of Frankfort. To authorize the mayor to sign all agreements with Febco to provide third-party administrator for city employees for flexible benefits plan. Item 7.9, to authorize the mayor to sign a business associate agreement and service agreement between the Franklin County Health Department and the city of Frankfort. This will be approximately $10,000. Item 7.10, to authorize the mayor to sign an application agreement between Active Fitness 24/7 and the city of Frankfort. This will provide access to gym and exercise facilities for city employees. Item 7.11, to authorize purchase of one 2012 Chevrolet Tahoe for the fire department to replace a battalion chief vehicle. Item 7.12, to authorize the filing of a condemnation action to obtain real property for the location of sewer lines and pump station. Item 7.13, personnel actions, retirement, as we heard earlier, of Alan Burris, the street department, appointment of Bobby Cummins in the sewer department, appointment of Stephen Stossberg, sewer department, appointment of Stephanie Kayla in police department, Patrick R. Brooks, police department, promotion of Matt Tate in the sewer department, promotion of Keith Merriweather, public works, promoted from street foreman to street superintendent, taking Alan Burris's place. Then the attachment is Alan Burris's retirement letter. And that concludes.
Okay, do I have a motion for the approval of the consent calendar? Commissioner May, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Turner. Commissioner Hadden.
I just, with 7.2, and the property that have to go with it, my parents live out there, I don't know if has anything, can you answer that, Rob? You know, I don't want to break anything ethical.
Oh, it's not
No,
for their
that's-
specific property.
Property?
by voting on this, you would not be violating any
Okay.
ethics
Okay.
provision.
Okay, call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes?
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Mayor Grant.
Yes, so the consent calendar is adopted. Next, board appointments. There's one for this month. This is the Architecture Review Board, and I'm recommending the reappointment of Mary Lee New, to represent the Board of Realtors to a 3-year term ending 9/2/14. Ms. New had served for about a year. She had completed the term of another person. Okay, got a move by Commissioner May. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Wilder. Okay, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden,
Yes?
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Mayor Grant.
Yes, so the appointment for Mrs. New is approved. Next is old business. Mr. Goins.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a discussion of the proposed Green Vision resolution, and Solicitor Moore had been in contact with the other two entities, and for your consideration or discussion is a copy of the resolution adopted by Franklin County Fiscal Court, and then our draft resolution for discussion, and the proposed resolutions as were provided by Green Vision. I will add that it's my understanding that the Frankfort Plant Board had this on their agenda, but because of time, they tabled it. Is there anything additional to add to that?
Now, what is the position of the county?
I reviewed the resolution. Solicitor Moore might more accurately report on this, but it seems to me they accepted part of the proposed resolutions that were put forth by Green Vision, but they omitted part of it.
Right. My review was that the county, and this is just a broad description, that is, the county did approve the creation of the commission and did make the requested amendment to add a member of state government to the commission, but it did not specifically address the employment of the sustainability coordinator and the splitting of the salary, payment of the salary and benefits for the sustainability coordinator. Of course, the resolution that's been provided to the City Commission a couple of weeks ago included the addition of the state government appointee and also included the provisions concerning the payment of the benefits and the allocation of the payments of the benefits for the sustainability coordinator.
Any comments from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Turner.
Just a quick question to anybody that can answer this. Do we know, I mean, maybe the answer's here in the resolution, but do we know if the county does plan to share the sustainability coordinator and just omitted it from this resolution because they didn't want it to be, I guess, binding in some way? Or are they sending us a signal that they're not wanting to participate in that? Has anyone had any discussions with the county regarding that?
I have not, but I would note that the resolution that the county passed on the 15th does include mention of the new jointly approved sustainability coordinator. It doesn't go into specifics or details, but in terms of signals that.
Do we have a copy? Is a copy in our, what the county?
We do have a copy.
Is in our book?
Yes. They do make reference to the sustainability coordinator in the composition of the board. However, I have not had a follow-up conversation.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Fred. Thanks. I was kidding you.
I guess the initial concept as discussed at the joint meeting and in subsequent work sessions, a desire has been expressed for each agency between the plant board, the county government, and city government to work together on the language of this resolution such that we all are approving essentially the same resolution as opposed to approving 3 differently worded resolutions. And within that context, considering the fact that the county has already passed a resolution which, even though I would prefer more mention of sustainability coordinator, there's nothing here that I would find objectionable or that I wouldn't be happy to support in a resolution. So and to be bluntly honest, I think that us approving a resolution to hire a joint sustainability coordinator is significantly less important than us hiring a joint sustainability coordinator. I mean, the resolution's one thing. I'm much more interested in the meat of the matter. So in terms of this resolution, I would be perfectly happy to vote to pass a resolution identical to the one approved by the county.
Any other comments?
I'd be fine with that too, Mary.
Taking it as a motion?
We don't have a resolution. I'm sorry, just a point of order. We don't have a resolution before us, though, do we?
No, we don't. We just have we don't have one drafted for the city,
Identical to the county.
which is identical to the county's resolution. We just have the draft for the city that was previously provided to you all.
Shoot.
Do we know when, you said the plant board tabled this, do we know when they're going to vote on this?
Mr. Goins, you know when the planning board plans to take this up?
No, sir, I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay.
It's on their agenda. I understand they had 2 meetings last week, but they had a very heavy agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
And I guess we need the resolution in writing in order to vote on it. I couldn't read the resolution verbally and put it to a vote.
I think the better practice would be to have it actually in front of you in writing so that anyone that wanted to look at it beforehand could do so. Certainly that could be added as a special meeting prior to the next work session, and by that time, I can have spoken with Hans Price and find out when he's the lawyer for the plant board, and find out when the plant board is going to discuss it.
Is that a reasonable follow?
Yes.
Okay, that seems to be the, okay.
And I'll have that out to the commission by Thursday, if that's okay, in y'all's boxes.
Thank you. Okay. All right, thank you. Any other business? Commissioner Head.
You can see it back there. Cable 10 people can't see it, but that roof obviously got worse today. Where do we stand with the roof? And
We had 5 contractors come to City Hall today. Investigate, we put a bid package out, and we're going to do emergency purchase order to get the fire department, their roof done immediately, and come back at the end of October and have the board do a approval of that emergency purchase order. So we're getting prices this week and do emergency purchase order. And then next spring, we'll follow up with a re-roof of City Hall and planing, which is the larger portion of the roof, and use our grant money potentially to pay for that repair later this spring. We've just kind of run out of the time of year to put a roof on. So we're going to address the emergencies, fix the trusses that were identified in the structural engineer's report, and look at some drains, specific areas where some drains are having some issues, like in this corner now, and then come back with a full, for the remaining portion of the city hall roof later this spring.
Long time to wait. But-
The repairs we're doing now
Mm-hmm.
will address the fire department's leaks, and the drain, that is a drain issue.
Okay.
From what we can conclude, so this.
And the one in the
work will-
front in the finance department too? Is that a drain issue too?
I believe that's been an air conditioning issue.
Okay.
Where the condensation line freezes up and it spills over and comes through the roof tiles, so that's not really a roof
Okay.
issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, any other? Okay, Commissioner Wilder.
As part of the public outreach and education program over the next month or so regarding the different size garbage cans, there's been talk, Commissioner Hidden suggested that we make the cans available for public display in different areas around the city. Some of the cans were provided on display at the recent festival at the Wardos Amphitheater down at the park, which a number of people found very useful. But as that happens again in the future, could we also get some information with the cans as well? That's all. And I was wondering if there was any update on exploring a lease agreement with private haulers, as in leasing out the rights for private garbage collection within the city limits. Please.
Franchise agreement?
Yep.
Okay. A franchise agreement, which is different from a lease agreement, but a franchise agreement, certainly the city, I've researched that issue, and the city can enter into a franchise agreement. The franchise agreement, the city's rights are pretty broad, really. The only thing that it's required to do is it is required to issue a franchise after notice and opportunity to bid. And the city could also issue a non-exclusive franchise if it chose to do so. The city is precluded from having a franchise for more than 20 years. I don't think that would be a big issue here. I know that Jeff and I spoke about trying to contact some of the nearby cities to see what kind of franchise fee they were paid, and I don't know what the results of those calls are at this point in time. So the city can definitely do it, and we can do it for, if we wish to do it only for commercial garbage, the city can do that, and it just has to be put out for notice and bid. You all may recall that the county had some issues a number of years ago when it entered into the agreement with the landfill without the bidding process being followed. So, does that provide the information?
I was reading and doing one other thing. Did you address the question with regards to if the state government has already worked out an agreement with the hauler to pick up their stuff? How would that affect in terms of a franchise license, for if we were to issue one, for example?
I have not looked at any contracts with the state, but I would say that the state would have their own private contract with the state agencies, and the franchise fee, we could, if a state agency chooses to enter into its own agreement, we could not require them to use the city's franchisee.
Okay, so our franchise fee does not supersede that of the state's agreement if they have a private agreement, is what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other?
Assuming there's still interest on the commission in pursuing this, what needs to happen?
was the question?
Assuming there's still interest in pursuing this, what needs to happen next? Do we need to discuss which form of franchising agreement we want to pursue? Do we want staff to give us some options? Do we?
If I could,
Please.
Commissioner, I think one of the things that I'd like to see is other examples of what other communities do in terms of this, just so that I can get a better handle on it myself, if without objection for the rest of the commission, of course. But I'd like to have some information provided to me about what other revenues other communities get from this, how they work it, just some general details on it, because I'm not as familiar with this particular issue as I am on others.
So,
Mr. Gore?
is that something we're directing staff to do?
The commission.
Please.
I think our thoughts are in the same direction. Staff can continue surveying other counties and cities in the state of Kentucky. As a matter of fact, Kentucky League of Cities is meeting soon. We might be able to get some information at that meeting about not only how to put one of these agreements together, but also how much revenue you might expect to receive.
Great.
And the one element, for what it's worth, when researching and asking questions about this, one element that I'm particularly interested in is whether or not there's the potential. My understanding is there is, but I want to hear this from you all. Whether or not there's the potential to negotiate protections for consumers of any franchise, such that costs aren't simply passed on to consumers.
By the vendor?
Right.
Okay.
Look, Mr. Moore?
Is the commission also interested in looking at franchises for natural gas companies? It's my understanding that several cities do receive substantial amounts from the companies that provide natural gas through a franchise.
Yeah, I'm worth exploring as long as there are protections to keep the cost from getting passed on to the consumers. Thank you. That's all I have on that. I do have one more piece of business that I'm not. Well, I do have one more piece of old business. The form-based code task force and program. When that initially started, as in when the commission put in for that grant, was awarded the grant and decided to move forward on exploring that program, we very overtly stated at the time that we wanted the process to be as public as possible, and that any changes to any of our zoning codes shouldn't be made by outside consultants or solely by city staff, but should be done with broad community input. And it's been very heartening to see that process move forward in that regard. We appointed a citizen task force tasked with helping to facilitate the process and also to facilitate even broader community input. I attended the community visioning process that took place in this very room over the weekend on Saturday, and gosh, it must have been at least 40 people showed up, probably more. I must have been pretty conservatively, to come in and to learn more about the concept of form-based code. And then folks broke out into teams and went out in the rain and walked the entire boundary area, just kind of taking notes on what they would like to see Second Street look like in the future as it developed further. Some folks expressed concerns about how this would affect their existing property, but I think they were very comforted by the fact that zoning codes don't affect existing property; they only affect future development and new development. And it's been very heartening to see that process play out in such a public, positive fashion, in which such public support is demonstrated by the Pioneering Healthy Communities group's decision to help underwrite and support the project. And I think it's just an excellent example of decisions not being made from the top down, but actually being made by the community, within the community, and for the greater good of the community. And it's been a very positive process, which is why it really pains me. To note that there's been a pretty unethical cloud cast over the process. A pretty egregious conflict of interest and abuse of power has really tainted the process. As I'm sure many of you have heard, the task force met last Wednesday, and one of our appointees to the task force, we appointed Charles Boo to the task force, who's the owner of Rebecca Ruth Candy, because he fit into two particular stakeholder groups. He represents the Planning Commission, and he also represents a property owner within the boundary area. And by the account of everyone I've spoken to at that meeting, and by Mr. Boo's own acknowledgement in an email that the mayor and I were both copied on, he asked the task force to carve out an exception to the rules to apply specifically to his property and businesses. He introduced a motion and voted on a motion to remove his property and his property alone from the boundary area. In other words, he used his position to carve out an exception for himself and his own businesses, which is as cut and dried a violation of our code of ethics and as cut and dried a conflict of interest as I can even imagine. I mean, it would be the equivalent of us voting to impose a garbage fee on every household in a given area, except for our particular addresses. It's pretty egregious. And when another member of the task force raised concerns about a conflict of interest, Mr. Boo reportedly threatened if he didn't get what he wanted, that he would derail the entire project, and that he would cause such a fuss at the community visioning forum that he essentially threatened to hijack the community visioning forum. So a few folks who were really not happy about the whole thing still, I mean, I think everybody was pretty blindsided by it, but they didn't want to see the process. They didn't want to see him sink the process the way he was threatening to, so they said his demands actually passed by a vote of 4-0 to 3, with 3 folks abstaining. And I've spoken to the folks along with Mr. Boo who voted for that, and they were not very happy about the whole thing. They just didn't want to see the process fail. And I hate to bring all that up, but the cloud over the process is already there, and the city has had problems in the past with folks using their positions on official boards to benefit themselves and for their exclusive benefit, and that's exactly the kind of thing that myself and the newest members of the commission in particular swore would finally come to an end under our watch. And unfortunately it happened again with one of our members on one of our boards. And it's just such a shame, because the process has been so positive and so community driven and so supported by the community, and I hate to see this unethical cloud hanging over it. But I think we really need to nip it in the bud and to remove the cloud as quickly as possible. So I'd like to request the commission, first of all, to remove Charles Boo from the Form-Based Code Task Force in light of his actions. It breaks my heart, but we can't let that kind of thing happen on our watch.
Right. And it's one thing as a property owner or even as a business owner to be a part of a board. You have to learn to separate yourself, and it seems as though he's unable to separate himself. It's one thing to speak as the business owner and to have concerns, but to not even let the process even begin to happen with the walkthrough. He's already pulling out, and I'll second Commissioner Wilder's.
Was that a motion? Was that a motion?
Got a motion.
I'll formally make the motion to remove Charles Booth from the Form-Based Code Citizen Task Force.
I have a
Commissioner
question,
Mayor.
just a question. Wouldn't we have to have some kind of due process first before we, I don't think that this board or the task force was set up with any guidelines on removal, but I certainly, this is the first I've heard of it, so I don't know. I wouldn't be comfortable voting on something I don't really know both sides of. I'm not saying it's not correct, I just don't know.
This is my first time I've heard of this.
Two things. I think if the commission wished to do so, it can vote on this motion tonight, because there are no real due process protections built into the situation. Certainly, there are two sides to every story, and the commission may want to look at both sides before it makes a vote. The other thing that you may want to do is you may want to have the name of the replacement, and if the commission wishes to remove him, then have a replacement to put in place at the same time. My recollection was the commission in its wisdom identified a certain number of people to serve on that board. So those are my thoughts. A is there are no due process protections built into it. You may want to take time to hear the other side of the story if there is one, and two, you may want to take time to identify the replacement and remove and replace it in the same motion.
Commissioner Wilder.
I do have, for what it's worth, I do have the email that Mayor Graham and I were copied on, that I'd be happy to forward to the rest of the commission. And this email is from Mr. Boo, who wants it to be recorded in the minutes that he asked that they officially record his motion, that the task force agrees that the properties he owns it. Well, I'll just read it out loud. Specifically, I am asking that we officially record my motion that the task force agrees that the properties that I own located at 112 East 2nd Street, 114 East 2nd Street, 116 East 2nd Street, 122 East 2nd Street, 124 East 2nd Street, 126 East 2nd Street, 132 Logan Street, 134 Logan Street shall be removed from any proposed overlay by the task force. So, I mean, of course, there's two sides to every story, but there is absolutely no disputing the fact that Mr. Boo used his position on this board to carve out an exception to the rules specifically for his business properties, that he made the motion and that he voted for it. There is no, and because he was, I'm also, y'all realize that he's threatened to derail the process if he doesn't get what he wants. And this process can be derailed by the Planning Commission, which he serves on. And there are provisions. There actually is a degree of due process regarding the Planning Commission. There isn't regarding this task force. This task force was just appointed by the Commission and could be somebody could be unappointed by the Commission. But even the due process regarding his position on the Planning Commission reads as such. Any member of a Planning Commission may be removed by the appropriate appointing authority for inefficiency, neglect of duty, malfeasance, or conflict of interest. Any appointing authority who exercises the power to remove a member of the Planning Commission. Timeout. In terms of the process, which is much more established regarding the Planning Commission, the standards that have to be met is that, a conflict of interest would have to be demonstrated. That's pretty cut and dried. Beyond that, our responsibility would simply be to submit a written statement to the Planning Commission setting forth the reasons for removal. The statement shall be read at the next meeting of the Planning Commission, which shall be open to the general public, and the member so removed shall have the right of appeal in the circuit court. So the protection there is in the appeals process. It's not at the front end. And I'm requesting that we take swift action on this, if not today, then in a special call meeting this week, because there is such a specific timeline on the work that the task force is doing, and it's a pretty tight timeline as well. And we have a member of the task force right now who is openly and verbally committed to who's openly and verbally committed to disrupt and derail this process. If he doesn't get what he wants, I can't imagine he's going to be very happy after the comments here today. And I think the less time we leave him in a position to disrupt this work in his own self-interest, I think the better off that process will be. Again, this whole thing has a cloud over it right now, and we need to remove that cloud as soon as possible. So my recommendation is still to remove him from the task force today, and to perhaps make a replacement, replace him next week, preferably with another member of the Planning Commission, because we still want that stakeholder group represented, if any are willing to serve, and if not, then perhaps with one of the other lists of applicants, with one of the other applicant names that were on our list. I would also be open to going ahead and appointing a replacement today, just from the other list of names we have. That's the task force is the simple thing. The heavier weight is on removal from the Planning Commission, and but there's I believe a 60-day window after somebody's removed from the Planning Commission to be reappointed. So there's not a particular sense of.
Not 30.
I think it's 60. I actually don't have that in front of me. I could be wrong.
All our ordinance package said it was 30.
It may be 30. It may be 30. But that's still ample time. Our next voting meeting falls within that time frame.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Wilder to remove Mr. Booth from the board. You got a second?
I will second it. I've spoken with 3 other members on the task force as well, all kind of basically blindsided by the whole project. And App said everyone seemed very excited for this whole process to occur. And now to just have one person come in and try to derail the entire project, it doesn't seem like it's the best for the community, much less he's only acting in his own interest.
All right, got a second? Any comments?
I guess the motion in the second was to remove from the task force?
The task force.
Purely the
But not-
task
Just the
Okay,
task
just wanted to
force.
be sure, because.
Very separate.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments?
I guess, and my concern is not having a chance to hear from Mr. Boo. I'm not comfortable making a decision tonight without hearing exactly. I mean, you read the email, I heard that.
There's if I could, I hate to put one of our own staff on the spot, but Gary, my understanding is that Gary Mueller was actually present at the meeting. I have not discussed this with Gary at all. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Gary, but as our official city representative at the meeting, well, first, I mean, would you mind confirming or denying whether or not you were there and your impression of what happened? I know this isn't very fun or pretty, but.
Yes, I was at our meeting.
And we correct in understanding that Mr. Booth did request that the task force carve out an exception specifically for his business property.
It was for his property, and then there was discussion on the motion. And I drew on the map that we had in front of the task force, a green area. And it was further described during the discussion that it was everything from the VFW over to Logan and from the alley to 2nd Street, which does include one lot owned by the city. But his specific motion, he did give the addresses during the discussion. It was the square on the map.
And are the other task force members, have they accurately represented his position as threatening to disrupt the meeting on Saturday and even derail the process if
He
he
mentioned,
didn't get what he wanted?
I think I recall the word derailing. I don't know if it was Saturday or the intent on Saturday, but I do recall him saying that it would be, he could make it very difficult for this process to continue, or implied that, yes.
Thank you, Gary.
Can I add one
Please.
more thing? He also made it very clear that his intent was to be able to choose to join back in at his choice. And the purpose of why he wanted out was because he fought City Hall to rezone his property from historic district to a general commercial district, getting himself out from under the Architects Review Board umbrella. And the intent of our form code is to add that back. And he was very adamant that he did not want to get back under that umbrella of the Architects Review Board unless it was his choosing to go back. And that's why he was adamant about being removed now and having the option to join should he like what the form code ends up saying.
Did he insist that, or did he even suggest that any other property holders within the boundary area should be allowed to also remove themselves from the boundary study? And did he insist that it be optional for anybody, or did he insist that it only be optional for himself?
We were concentrating on his site because he went through the zone process back in 03, 04, might have been 04, 05. I remember it because I got to know him very well during that rezoning process. But we spoke on that lot. That comment came up, but we didn't go there. It wasn't addressed.
Okay.
So there was no threat that he was going to get other stakeholders to pull out on the Second Street area? Maybe threat's not the right
I
word.
got an
but-
impression that he could make it difficult for the task force or the process.
Mhm.
When that would happen, I didn't get a good solid feel. But he was adamant that he didn't want to get back under the Architectural Review umbrella. He fought the process as a citizen, got an approval through the city commission to rezone his property, and he didn't want an agency or a group or the city to put him back in that umbrella unless it was his choosing as a property owner. That was the purpose of why he was saying what he was saying. Why he threw out the other part, I can't answer. The accusation of making it difficult.
I mean, I frankly take Mr. Boo at his word. You know, if he's threatening to derail the process, which is a quote that a number of people present at the meeting have attributed to him. I take him at his word that he really can make this more difficult. And he's clearly willing to use that leverage to carve out an exception purely for his own properties. Under those circumstances, I really think we need to, and even as a private citizen, I mean, he can make the process difficult, and that's his prerogative.
Right.
That's any private citizen's prerogative to challenge or disagree with or try to impact the effects of any zoning plan or city decision. However, I mean, using an official public position to carve out an exception for yourself is absolutely unacceptable. And if he's threatening to use his position, and if he's showing a willingness to use his position to make the process more difficult, then not only do I think we have to hold him accountable for the conflict of interest, but we need to do what we can to
Still protect the process.
right, to at least blunt his ability to follow through on that kind of threat. I mean, and I'm not talking about his threat to challenging the process. He has every right to challenge the process. I'm talking about the threat to abuse his position to challenge the process. That's the kind of thing that we promised would not happen anymore under our watch.
You got a motion for the removal?
Thank you, Gary.
From
Thank you,
the
Gary.
form-based task force. That's the motion. You got a second? Any more comments?
I second.
Any more comments? Commissioner Hayden is the second.
Yes.
Okay, call roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
I really can't vote yes or no now. I don't know how to really abstain without being considered voting in the majority, but ask the solicitor just for a clarification.
If you abstain, you're counted as voting for the
That's what I was
majority.
gonna say, so,
I think the record still reflects the abstention.
yeah, I'm just gonna abstain, only because I haven't had a chance to hear both sides, and I don't wanna make a decision and make the wrong thing and accuse someone of something that they didn't do. Abstain.
Mayor Graham?
No. Okay, the motion passed.
We got another piece of business. In light of the recent absence on the, well, in light of the empty seat on the Citizen Task Force, do we just want to add to our next agenda discussion of a reappointment, or do we want to go ahead and just get somebody off the list of appointees?
Should we have the city manager get back, maybe send an email back to the other ones and see if they want to rejoin or reapply?
Clarification, do you want somebody from the planning commission?
I think it would be preferable to have somebody from the planning commission, but it's purely a volunteer thing, so. But I would appreciate if we would solicit interest from members of the planning commission.
Commissioner, if you feel that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Gary, did you have a comment?
Just that I recall there was one member of the PC that did send in an email of interest. That wasn't chosen at this current time, or last time.
From the bottom of the list.
His name, Joe Sanderson. I don't know where he was on the list, but I believe Mr. Sanderson sent an
Is there
email
a
in.
woman as well?
But that's just for information.
I'd have to refer, I can't go from memory, I don't think. I do remember Mr. Sanderson had applied.
Would you mind re-gauging his interest in serving and notifying us and so that we can add it to our next agenda? Because again, there is a tight timeline, so that we should fill that seat as soon as possible. My heart's pretty heavy with all this, but I think it had to be done. In that regard, and I guess I have my understanding of position on the planning commission. This does say that any member of a planning commission may be removed by the appropriate appointing authority for inefficiency, neglect of duty, malfeasance, or conflict of interest. So that base is covered. Appointing authority is defined as the mayor with the legislative approval of the commission. So my reading of this is that the commission, it's kind of like is that the removal process is the antithesis of the appointment process. So the commission cannot appoint members of the planning commission. The mayor makes the recommendation, and the commission votes to approve or disapprove. And my reading of this is that the same is true in reverse, is that the commission cannot choose to remove a member of the planning commission, that the mayor would have to make the recommendation, and that the commission would then put it to a vote. If, with a real quick, passing this down to our city solicitor, can I get an opinion real quick on whether or not that's an accurate reading? I mean, I think it's pretty cut and dried, but I guess I'd like to hear that formally before making my next request.
I'm going to do the lawyerly thing, and I'm going to say I'd like to see whether or not there are any Attorney General's opinions or cases that are interpreting the statute before I give an opinion.
Fair enough. For what it's worth, I did that already and couldn't find anything, but you might be able to find something I didn't. However, I think would you agree that it is fair to say that the question in play is purely one of whether or not the recommendation needs to come from the mayor, or whether or not the commission can simply cast the vote? I think it is fair to say that it's one or the other, and that if the recommendation were to come from the mayor, then either base would be covered.
I think that's correct.
Well, I know the mayor probably isn't supportive of this, but I guess I do have to ask if you would be amenable to allowing us to vote on it.
No.
No, you wouldn't.
Not this time. No, I need to know more about what's going on.
Okay. Then with more information from our city solicitor and after our mayor has gathered more information, then I'll just ask us to readdress this at a later meeting. Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Any other old business? Okay, now the new business, Mr. Owens.
New business, item 10.1, authorization to advertise request for qualifications for stormwater consultant to assist with evaluating the feasibility of establishing a stormwater utility in Frankfort and Franklin County. This is through the sewer department, and it would authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to the project. It's estimated that phase 1 of the study will cost between $30,000 and $50,000.
Okay, do we have a motion for approval of 10.1? Commissioner Hedden, second. Commissioner Turner, any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes?
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Grant?
Yes, so 10.1 is approved. Now, we're down to adjournment. Is there anyone in favor of adjournment?
Move for adjournment,
Second.
Commissioner Turner, did you make the motion?
I usually do.
All right, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes?
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Grant?
Yes, we adjourn.